session. There we go. So that's recorded now and that will be sent out to you following today's session. So welcome everybody. Welcome to 9 Dots Development. It's great to see you all today and to see some familiar faces and names as well. So good to see you. My name is Kerry Clarkson. I'm one of the trainers here at 9 Dots and it's a real pleasure to be here today and host today's session on uncovering and overcoming unconscious bias with your staff. So as some of you know, we do webinars every 2 weeks, and here at 9 Dots our aim is to support you, your teams, your organisations in growing and improving knowledge, skills and behaviours in lots of different areas, both in line with our current environment now, but also the demands for the future as things are changing so rapidly at the moment. And we do this through a range of training programs, professional apprenticeships, and also our free content series as well, called Developing Yourself and Others, which is what you've signed up for today. So Developing Yourself and Others, what we do is we look at real life situations or problems that our learners have asked us to concentrate on, to have a discussion about. Like today's session on unconscious bias, it was something that somebody's put forward to say, but can we have a chat about it? Let's learn a bit more about it. And we look at the root cause behind things like that, look at expert tips, advice, free articles, podcasts, videos, and webinars like today. So in the handout, the link in the chat box there, there'll be lots of useful information in the back of that. So I'll just show you on here. So you can see it's got today's session in there, but also at the back, you've got loads of bonus resources and materials and articles. Okay. So some really useful stuff in there for you. So yeah, so that's you developing your yourself and others, and as you can see on the website where you sign up, there's lots of information on there about it and lots of different webinars in the future, as well as this unconscious bias one. So when we think about unconscious bias, what we're looking at is decisions that are often not based on logic. It's based on how we perceive or think about things. And it's not unusual, it's just something that happens automatically, and humans develop biases subconsciously. We're not always aware of them. And you might think, well, is that a problem? And it is, it can be, it can have impact on recruitment, how we view other people in promotions in the office as well. So it's really making sure that we think about our thought patterns, our decision making processes, and have a more open-minded view. And that's what today's session is all about. Okay, so as with the other webinars that we do, it's an interactive session. So as I said, although it automatically pops you on mute when you come in there, you can take yourself off mute, share questions, answers, anything you'd like to share about unconscious bias. And also you've got your chat box as well, which is like a little speech bubble down the bottom there, so you can open chat, message me directly, which is the client services one, or you can message everyone. Okay, so we're looking at about 45 minutes for today's session. You've got the handout there, so you can make your own notes, and you've got all the useful materials in there as well. Okay, so let me just send you that link once more, just for any joiners that have come since I sent the last one, because you don't see the history on the chat. Okay, so there you go. So today's session then, the objectives. So we're going to look at understanding bias in a bit more detail, the different types of bias, to engender people to challenge their thinking and say, right, this is what I'm thinking. Why am I thinking that? Is it the correct thing to think? How can I challenge myself? How can I overcome that? And overcoming unconscious bias within the organisation as well. Okay, so let's talk about first of all about unconscious bias and understanding it then. So what is your understanding of what unconscious bias is? What do you think causes it? So either in your chat box or take yourself off mute. What are your thoughts?
Is it our life experiences, things that have happened to us in our own lives?
Absolutely, Gina. Yeah, the experiences, it almost kind of forms our perceptions, doesn't it? We have filters that we'll see an event or an experience, and we might view it differently to somebody else who's standing right next to us based on our experiences. Absolutely. So we've got our past experiences. What else do you think drives our unconscious bias?
Is it what we find familiar with the other person as well? And if you've got anything in common that we like, so you sort of gravitate towards them.
Yeah, that's really good, Andrew. Yeah, it's like an affinity bias, that is, where you're thinking, oh, right, that's interesting. Yeah, I also like doing that. And you feel like you get on more with them. So therefore, you might discount somebody else who doesn't like whatever you've got in common with that person. Absolutely. Any other ideas, you think?
Parenting attitudes from the home from long ago, but we haven't really realised are still impacting us.
Nice one, Candy. Yeah, that's really good. It's like that nature and nurture kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah, you've got your parenting, your peers, your family, your friends. They all drive what we're thinking. Might not necessarily think the same of them, but it's all here. It's all that experience, and the media as well. So the media is telling us their opinions. So I mean, you know, like newspapers and TV channels have their own biases, and then therefore are we taking those biases on board? So the media and things that other people tell us, our external influences from not only what we've mentioned already, but our organisation, are they telling us what to think as well? So there's so many things that could actually drive this unconscious bias, and again, we might not be aware of it. Things like, say if you were interviewing somebody and they had a tattoo on their face, what are you automatically going to think compared to somebody who doesn't have a tattoo? Do you think anything different? You might not. So society, our upbringing, our peers, external and media, everything kind of filters what we see, what we think, what we feel. And we really need to challenge ourselves on that and say, right, why am I thinking that? Is it the truth? Or is it because it's a pattern that my brain has told me to think? Is it a shortcut? And it can be things like the way people dress, a name on a CV, an address, a job title. And this is where we've got to be really careful, and dates of birth, all those kind of things. This is why CVs are quite an interesting subject, because you can actually find a lot about a person just by certain details on their CV, and our unconscious bias might be making decisions for us. And there are advantages and disadvantages. I know I'm making it sound like it's all bad. What do you think an advantage of this shortcut in the brain is? Is there an advantage?
You could have an affinity with somebody who, you know, like somebody else has just mentioned earlier, that you have a lot in common. So you're more likely to then to be more aligned with them, choose them over someone else.
Yeah, Joelle, that's lovely. Yeah, so it's got a real good advantage, because you can really make rapport someone with really quickly. Somebody, so say if I don't know if you've been watching Silent Witness this week. So if you were watching Silent Witness, we might suddenly start a conversation, and then if I were recruiting you, I might think, oh, that person's really good because they watch the same TV as me, and we'd be able to have things lots in common. So it's an advantage in it can help form a relationship. But as with some advantages, there is also a disadvantage. So what could be the disadvantage of that?
They may not necessarily be suitable for the role.
Absolutely, yeah. So I might be thinking
somebody else may be better.
Yeah, exactly. I might think, well, I know they haven't got that qualification or experience, but they like Silent Witness, so it's okay. And then for that person who didn't watch Silent Witness, who is actually got the experience and the qualifications needed for the role and is a good cultural fit, we actually discount them, because on the way to the interview room, we hadn't hardly got that much small talk because they didn't watch Silent Witness last night. Okay, even though you're thinking, well, I know that's not important, but your brain is telling you things all the time without us necessarily knowing. So it's like a lens through how we see the world, and we can be biased about absolutely anything. And if people don't fit our expectations, we might be missing out on their talents, their potential, because it doesn't fit our box of what we think should be in that role. So as I said, our brain is really good at doing these patterns because we have so much information. There's the human mind per second takes in 11 million pieces of information, which is an amazing feat, but only 40 pieces of information is actually something is done with it. The rest of it is kind of deleted, got rid of, because we haven't got time to process it. So this is why the unconscious bias is helpful, because it's a shortcut. But then the downside is, actually, have we shortcut some really useful information? Have we been so concentrating on things that we're familiar with that we're kind of going, well, I know that about people with tattoos, people who wear jeans to interviews. I've seen that before, therefore my shortcut in my brain is saying they're no good for the job, or a certain person is lazy, or a certain person who drives a certain car is aggressive. Our brain can only deal with so much information, so it thinks it's doing us a favour by saying, it's okay, you don't have to think about that, I'll tell you what you need to think. Okay, so we just need to challenge ourselves constantly. Some interesting statistics to share with you here. So let's have a look at these together. So what are your thoughts on some of these? I was quite shocked at some of these. So men apply for a job when they meet only 60% of the qualifications, but women apply only if they meet 100% of them. Out of 200,000 participants, 68% were biased towards white skin over dark skin. Out of 200 participants, 76 were biased towards men because of their careers. And 67% felt uncomfortable talking to disabled people. And 36% tend to think disabled people not as productive as others. Which I think is quite shocking, those statistics. What are your thoughts? Is that a surprise to you, or are you expecting those kind of percentages?
It is quite surprising.
It is, isn't it? I thought that. Yeah, it's I know there's biases out there, but I didn't think it'd be that kind of in those numbers, because this is research from something called an implicit association test, and you can access this on the internet, and it measures attitudes and beliefs that people may be unwilling or unable to report themselves. So it's good for recording attitudes that you didn't know you had. So this might be a surprise to some of the people who actually answered the questions as well.
Was this taken from 2015? Sorry, just.
Yes, yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so this is really interesting to make sure you question yourself, that you challenge yourself and think, right, why am I thinking this? Am I thinking it? How do I correct myself? Has anybody ever done one of those implicit tests?
No.
No, again, it might be something that's again, there's useful information in the back of the workbook about it. So yeah, it is something that especially in an organisation, really useful to consider. So let me just go on to chat, because I know I've been talking a little bit. So Joelle, yeah, ingrained attitudes to unconscious bias, very important, especially in organisations as well. A culture of an organisation can drive unconscious bias as well. Laura, informed by our own experiences and our own window on the world. I love that. Yeah, we look out through these filters, don't we? We see it the way we see it. I don't know if you've seen the, I really want to see it, but I don't know if you've seen the new Top Gun film yet, Maverick. And if you looked at online at some reviews, some will give it 5 stars, some will give it 1 star. I can't imagine that, but some probably will. And that's even though it's the same film. You might have gone to the cinema with the same person, the same film, had the same popcorn, watched the same experience. But because we're all different, we all have unconscious biases. We will have different opinions on the same thing. Okay. So it's just making sure that we're going, right, okay, why am I thinking that? Paula, yeah, perception and impression of people, that 6th sense. Yeah, that feeling, that gut feeling. And what we've got to be careful of is that gut feeling, that 6th sense, the right thing when we're talking to people? Is it that extra tool, or is it pointing us in the wrong direction? Laura, values, belief systems, absolutely. They're really ingrained. It's quite difficult to change those because you can do, but they are very, very deep in there. Sarah, yeah, it is about being discriminatory because you're giving somebody else an advantage over somebody else because of this bias. And Kim, preconceived ideas that you're not aware of, influence from our past experience, knowledge and stereotypes. Absolutely. Fabulous. That gut feeling. The first one is a surprise. Which one, Sharina? Are you able to talk? I'm not sure if you can. No. And Mar's done the test. Fantastic. It's really interesting, the implicit test. Fantastic. Right, okay, thanks for that, guys. Really interesting. Let's move on then. So we've talked about the generic unconscious biases, but what have you come across in your organisations? What I really like about these webinars is we can actually share our experiences, that we don't feel alone, and we can share best practices. So what have you come across? What challenges, and how have you overcome those, if you have yet? Would anybody like to share?
I can do.
Yeah, thank you.
I work for a small healthcare charity, and they're looking at why it is that they continue to serve the same predominantly white, predominantly middle class, particular type of cancer client group, when that's not what's wished for.
Mm.
But then you look at us as a staff group of people who support those people, and we are predominantly white, educated in a particular way, probably describe ourselves as middle class, to use language which I have discomfort with, but I don't know what else there is at the moment. And so what exists perpetuates itself because we don't reflect a diverse mix in what we show on our Zoom sessions, and nor do we as colleagues. We have a little bit of diversity, and we have hidden diversity. So a lot of people have disabilities that wouldn't necessarily show. So we probably tick quite a lot of that box, but and there may be a lot of ethnic mix that's not visible, but it's that visibility. And why would somebody who looks at who we are reaching out to support people, they wouldn't see people like them if they came from a group of people with, to use language I'm not sure is appropriate anymore. I'm just going to use it and know that it's, I'm comfortable with it. So black and brown faces, say.
Yeah.
I want to welcome people from whatever group they're from and work with them, because the need is there, and the ability, us as a team, ability to support them, and yet we don't say to them, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So the organisation's doing a lot of work on it, which is very interesting to be part of. But I think it's really, really hard to see how to break away from that, if I can put it that way.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing, Candy. That's really interesting because it sounds like it's ingrained, isn't it? So it's a real wrench to kind of change that culture
Yes,
within the organisation.
but it's not what's wished for.
Yeah.
It's what self-perpetuates until you start to look at this. Where is this bias? And what can we do about it? Which is happening.
Yeah.
I
And
think
the awareness is really important as well. That you can see it, and that's half the battle sometimes, isn't it? Is that awareness side of it, but it exists, so you can challenge it then, which is good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing. Has anybody come across anything similar to Candy in their organisation that managed to overcome that? No, it is a difficult one, and it takes time, but you're doing the right thing in that challenging. It will take time, but it's that culture, isn't it? It's got to kind of live and breathe. Definitely. Age has come up a few times as well on the chat. So yeah, this is where the dates of birth and things come in on CVs. We've stopped doing that kind of thing now because it's about the how long to retirement, but you've also got experience as well. So there's that bias of this person won't be able to learn as quickly, or technology might not be their first skill. But what about all that experience? It's about the right person for the right job. Okay. So yeah, it's really important that there's no judgment. You look at a CV, and it's hard not to make a judgment because you might have 100 CVs for one position. But you look at the specifics, the criteria, rather than the bias side of things that can drive your opinion based on age, name, address, all those kind of things. Okay. Absolutely, the gender bias as well. Yeah, it is scary, isn't it? Yeah, because of this potential maternity leave. It's like women of a certain age. Well, there's a man there who's not going to go off and have a baby, but there's a woman here who might go off, have a baby, and then we'd have to kind of recruit somebody else. So there's that. I mean, with all this, you've got protected rights as well in the background, which is a legal requirement. The Equality and Diversity Act 2010, you've got to be thinking about that as well. So the bias is one thing, but legally you're not allowed to do that. So there has to be really strict controls with this. Yeah, female when you're younger in the management, and also female. Yeah, I've experienced that. I mean, in banking, that kind of culture of middle class white male, and then I came in my 20s, and it was all, well, what would you know? It's and it was banking of an age where you call the bank manager Mr., and they all smoked and drank, and I wasn't. So it's you can see it happening, and thank goodness times have changed. I might be a little bit older now, but yeah, thank goodness things have changed, and we're overcoming these biases, but it does take time. It does take persistence and hard work. It doesn't come overnight because they are so ingrained, these ideas and opinions in people's brains, these shortcuts. We mentioned affinity bias before, but all these kind of things tend to fall into three different categories. The social comparison bias, the affinity bias, and the confirmatory bias. The affinity bias we mentioned previously, then that is where you build this rapport with somebody because you have something in common. You tend to like people who are like you in some way. And then we may pay less attention to the people who aren't like us. We might therefore alienate people and give the impression that we don't value their opinion. And this can happen not just in recruitment, in business, in the organisation, your team. You may pay more attention to one person because you both support the same football team. But how does that make the other person feel? And again, it's not intentional, it's just that you get on. But thinking about how that other person feels. So there is the affinity bias as well. So again, are we missing out on the other person being the right person for promotion? And are we missing out on diversity, innovation, all these different experiences and ideas because we're sticking with people who are like us? Social comparison is an interesting one, is where you're comparing yourself to others. So we might take a dislike to someone who might have a better standing than us, better status or possessions than us. And then the confirmatory one, really interesting one, is almost like the law of attraction, where you're looking for things to confirm your biases, but then you ignore the things that contradict it. So, for example, you might be out driving 10 years ago and a big white van pulls next to you and they're revving the engine, and as soon as the lights change they pull in front of you, cut you up, they got their music blaring, they indicators not working, all those kind of things. That happened once, this experience. So therefore now all white van drivers are terrible drivers and are going to cut you off at the lights. And that's just your brain going, be careful, remember what happened last time. So that's that confirmatory saying, like, see, told you, look, there's another white van man. But what we don't do, we don't look at all the white vans and say, well, look at that, they're driving really well. Because we're going to discount that because it doesn't support our opinion. So it is really interesting. We just need to be, again, as I said, be aware of these diverse kind of perspectives. Look for people with, seek to include people with different backgrounds and experiences and ideas and opinions, because that's where you get new viewpoints, new innovation, this diversity, rather than everybody thinking the same way. So a couple of scenarios to kind of illustrate it for you then. So an interviewer greets a candidate and small talk on the way to the interview. They both discuss rugby and they find out they support the same team as each other. And so does other people in the team, the existing team as well. They talk about a rugby match. And then during the decision-making process, the interviewer thinks they would really fit into the existing team. Which type of bias do you think that might be? Yeah, Joelle, thank you. Yeah, the affinity bias. Absolutely. They both like rugby. So he might not be actually looking at all the criteria. It might be that he does fit all the criteria and it's just a bonus that he likes rugby. But we've got to be careful that we don't overlook everybody else. Has anybody had experiences of affinity bias? No, that's good. I'm pleased, that's good. Right then, so second scenario. Joe has recently been appointed to the new position of manager. Sadiq is a member of the team and he went for the same position. It was close in terms of skills and experience, but Jo was given the role as she provided a clear vision of how she saw the department succeeding. Jo has recently been spending much more time with Sadiq, watching him closely and correcting every mistake he makes. So which one do you think that might be? It's not a clear cut one, but it is definitely one of those. It is a tricky one, Joelle. Yeah, it's actually a social comparison one. That one, yeah, Abby, yeah. Because what they're doing, Joe is actually been threatened by Sadiq. In the fact that it was very close in going for the position. So Joe might be thinking, oh, right, okay, well, actually, Sadiq could have got this job if I hadn't have said, well, our skills and experience are quite similar. So now Joe might be thinking, right, I'm going to make sure he knows I'm boss. Okay. So no prizes for the last one then. So this is the confirmatory one. So an interviewer notices a candidate is not clean shaven, and they think people they've worked with before who aren't clean shaven tend to be less proactive and don't seem to put in the effort. So this is similar to the white van. So they've had an experience. So in answer to the customer service question, the candidate provides an example of hard work and effort he made after a deadline was missed. But when it came to be making a decision, the interviewer focused on the fact that he missed the deadline as opposed to the effort and the hard work. So again, it may well have been that the decision was made that this candidate wasn't going to be getting the job as soon as they met them. So it's almost like with filters, there's the deletion. So you're kind of you're not actually listening to what he's saying about the hard work because you're going to focus on the negative because you've already made that decision. Okay, so you're looking for something to support your opinion. Okay. Anybody experienced any of these? Anybody got experience of it happening to you, or have you seen it happen? Again, it's about that awareness, isn't it? As long as you know it exists, you can start to you can see it in other people, but also yourself as well. So the big part then, the overcoming of it. How do we actually deal with it? How do we oh, Abby, this may have been a case where the interviewer asked the question, so the interviewer talked about. Yeah, absolutely. As an yeah, you're right. Oh. Okay then, so let's have a look at overcoming it, and this is why we need to make sure that we know it exists. So what are we going to do about it then? So when we're making decisions at work for whatever reason, we are able to override these kind of unconscious and make decisions in a conscious and unbiased way by becoming aware of your thoughts and what's driving them, because unintentional bias, it can cause conflict and discrimination. So what we're looking for is to actually promote respect and inclusion, that diversity and equality within the workplace as well. So we need to make sure that you're aware, as I've said throughout, this is being aware of those assumptions. When you've made that decision or take a course of action, review it, why are you thinking it? So question why you've made that. So question your assumptions. What brought you to that decision? What is the evidence? And now challenge it. So you look as a third person coming in. Why have you made that decision? Would you have made that decision if you were a different person, different experiences, different race, different age, different gender, different sexual orientation, disability, or any other criteria? Think about those protected rights as well. So as we said, unconscious bias gives you those quick decisions, the quick judgments, because it is that quick decision there to save you time. So what have we missed then? What about, because we've done it so quickly, we've missed out on the fact that people have, with different styles, different areas of development, have different strengths. They bring other things into a team. People who are different to us have different viewpoints, different opinions, different ideas, may think differently to us. So they're an asset because they work differently to us. They have a different background, they have different preferences. So when you're thinking about your assumptions, think about why am I not giving it this role to that person with dyed pink hair compared to somebody with hair of a natural colour? Why am I not giving it that person? So it's that questioning. And it's really important because there are lots of advantages to overcoming unconscious bias. There's that engagement of the staff because it's an inclusive environment. People are engaged, they feel safe, they're effective, and they're valued to be they're listened to and contribute to that, to the running of the business, their ideas, the strategy. The innovation side that I mentioned before, thinking about new ideas, thinking outside the box. Our customers will be thinking, wow, what a fantastic place to work. Everyone is valued with these diverse experiences and perspectives, and therefore it then contributes to financial results and productivity within an organisation as well. Okay. So what about you? How have you overcome, or how have you seen other people overcome unconscious bias? What experiences have you had where you've actually either recognise it and overcome it in yourself or others? So Abby, yeah, really good. A second opinion before proceeding. And this is especially in interviews, it's really important that you don't do interviews on your own, both from a safeguarding point of view, but also having another opinion. And it might be somebody from another department, for example, someone who you don't work with, a totally clear point of view, somebody who might not be working with them. Absolutely, Joelle, regular training. And it really should be, you know, mandatory training like safeguarding, prevent fraud, all those kind of things, health and safety. Unconscious bias should be one of those as well, just to kind of as a refresher to say, don't forget, you know, we all know we're all brought up in a certain way. We, as we've said right at the start, our upbringing, our peers, the media, our values, beliefs, who we work with, it all makes us who we are. And it's about, it doesn't make us a bad person. It's about saying, right, okay, well, what can I do to make sure I'm more inclusive and diverse, and equality and diversity is throughout the organisation. So Ma, be more creative as to where jobs are advertised to encourage applications from a more diverse range of people. Fantastic idea. Yeah. Again, we might have a habit that we always go to that one recruiter, or we might just put it on LinkedIn. So again, thinking about that diverse, how can we make sure it's accessible to as many people as possible? Brilliant. Any other ideas? When I think about the accessibility side of it as well, it's again making sure that people are as comfortable as possible, that if it's a Zoom interview or a telephone interview, that people are comfortable with technology and we're not kind of writing them off as soon as they say, well, I haven't got a laptop. And Joelle, ensure everyone has a voice when in meetings, for example, for a more diverse range of opinions and ideas. Absolutely. Really good idea. And again, it's something like De Bono's thinking hats. I don't know if you've come across that before, where everyone is you can think in a certain style in a meeting. So say 10 minutes focusing on all the positives, 10 minutes focusing on all the negatives, 10 minutes focusing on new ideas. And everybody, no matter what the type of personality, has their go, because everyone, and no one's singled out because everyone thinks in that style. So that's a really useful one. And Ina, look at barriers to participation for various groups and how these can be overcome. interviews, send out questions beforehand so that people can prepare, and not just having people who are quick at thinking and responding. Absolutely, you're right there. It's again, are we giving somebody the job because they're really good at answering questions, as opposed to the experience that they can bring to their role? Fantastic. Some really, really good ideas there. So what about your organisation? How is unconscious bias trained? How is it approached in your organisation? How is it like is there an e-learning? It might not be an e-learning. Is it like an online? Is it delivered? Is it left up to the person? Is there a policy on it? What's everyone's experience of it within their organisation? Is it cascaded down to everyone? Or the wrong message cascaded down? And Abby, allow everyone to recognise their own bias so they have an opportunity to overcome it. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we can't kind of just say, you think this. It's that self-awareness, hasn't it? Yeah. So what about your organisation then? Tell me a bit about what you've got in your... It might even be part of the recruitment process, the induction. Do you have an unconscious bias part of your induction? Because again, we can't expect people to be aware if we don't tell them about it. There's lots of things out there. I mean, again, you don't have to necessarily pay for unconscious bias training. There's lots of free training out there. So if you don't have that at the moment, it is something I suggest that you would look at doing, definitely. So Mar, we had an external organisation come in and deliver one-off training. Fantastic, that's good. Again, with things like that, it's making sure that it's kind of within the culture, that it's kind of part and it's embedded, rather than just, right, here you go, off you go. So ideally it should be like an annual thing. And also there's some kind of evidence. Has there been like a quiz or a test at the end of it as well to ensure understanding of that? And Carrie requires staff to complete certain training courses regularly, ethics, sexual harassment. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, it would form kind of part of all that, Carrie. Yeah, and there's lots of different things, and we can do that training for you, or there's lots of different things and approaches that you can take with that as well. So what are your actions going forward then? Now you know a bit more about unconscious bias and the effects of it. What differences are you going to make now? So Sarah, we've got an equality and diversity course within our training package for staff. Fantastic. That's great. And Paul, I think this is something our organisation needs to bring together through staff. Those staff do attend various training. Brilliant. And try to be more open-minded in decision making. Fantastic. Yeah, because it might be the right decision that you've made. It's just checking as to why you've made that decision and go, right, why am I thinking that? Is it because they haven't got the experience, as opposed to they're wearing a top I don't particularly like, or they're wearing a top that I really like and I like pink, therefore I'm going to side with this person. Encourage managers to conduct interviews, not just one-on-one. Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes it's somebody who is different to you as well. So rather than your deputy, for example, somebody from a different department, that's like, say if you're in sales, ask for somebody from compliance or risk or HR, somebody who does something different to you, because they might spot something that you don't. Virginia, I'm actually volunteering. I'll be taking this info back to the organisation I volunteer with. Fantastic. Thank you, Jean. That's great. It just makes sure that everyone has that equal opportunity. Yeah, and we benefit from it, that diversity, the innovation. So before I ask you to do the poll and give you the resource pack, any questions and comments on today's session? As I said, you'll be sent the recording of this, so you can listen to that again. And what I'll do as well, I'll just, in case people have joined who haven't got the handout, that's the handout with all the useful material in it. And also I'll send you some links about the free content that we offer as well. So also in the chat box there, I'll send you a couple of links to some free content, the training that we do that's 95% funded, and also some private training as well. So in your bonus pack that we've in the handout, you've got lots of information in there, and also a free consultation opportunity, links to books, training, blog articles, and a recording of this. And then what I'm going to ask you to do now is that little poll for me. It'll literally take you seconds. If you could answer a couple of questions for me, it would really help with our webinars. And also, if you've got any recommendations on future webinars that you'd like us to do, please let us know. So if you could do that poll that's on screen for us, that would be fab. And then the next webinars that are coming up soon, then we've got, just change that. Does I want to change? It's because the poll's on. So the next few webinars that are coming up, we've got, so again, you can go on, join the dots on the our website to join these. So the 23rd of June, we've got setting boundaries at work without damaging relationships. And then the 7th of July, making good training happen with a limited budget. So I'm sure some of you know all about that. Fantastic. Okay, so let me just come back. Okay, so that's great if you could do that for me with the polls. So just a few minutes left on that. So any questions on anything that we've done today? No?
Not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
If I may. And I think I found it really, really useful just to begin to work with the new language, because I noticed you just talked about the purpose of it is to make opportunities equal, which is the old language for it. So equal ops training doesn't fit this anymore. It's not enough, is it? And
yeah.
so it has so much more. It's so much more nuanced and just it's these things, the three different types of the social comparison, the affinity bias and confirmatory bias, just beginning to think through, observe behaviours and think through where does that fit, and then begin to be able to just raise questions about those assumptions. I think that's really useful.
Fantastic.
The workplaces that I'm linked to, I don't see it happening. So I'm really grateful to begin to be able to do it here.
Oh, that's brilliant. Fantastic. That's really good news. Thank you. That's really good to share. And again, it's just getting that message out there, isn't it, really? Letting everyone know that and it's not going to go away. We want to make sure people see a benefit in it as well, that it's not just something else that we need to do. It's actually a real benefit that we'll have more diverse teams, more ideas, more innovation. So fantastic opportunity for everyone to embrace. Absolutely. Right, thank you. Thanks for that. My screen is frozen, so I can't see the comments that are coming up. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to come in and out. Can you hear me okay still?
Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. Lovely. So thank you for your comments and for doing the poll. My screen's frozen. I think I've probably been talking too much. So forgive me if I can't read your chats out, but I really do appreciate it. And I've recorded it, so I'll be able to read it later. Thank you. So if you do have any questions, I can't see it on chat, please just if you could take yourself off mute and let me know, that would be fab.
Thank you, that was great.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thanks ever so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time and coming on today. And once you've done the poll, if you want to, you can leave then, and then we'll get the recording sent out to you. And I will see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thanks
Fantastic.
very much.
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Have a lovely afternoon. I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
bye.
Take care now. Bye-bye. Bye.